I think you're conflating the two. Like when you say liking, what do you mean? Like I would like date him, or I'm attracted to him, or are you just talking about like
it? All of the above. Like is an umbrella term. So like, because it's an umbrella term, you can like any aspect of the person or the dynamic. That's like, you like this person. You might like their personality. You might like their style. You might like the way they look. You might like the way they talk. You might like the way they walk. You might like their energy. Anything can have you like a person.
I think that's like, because like Sima said, liking is worth entertaining. So like, that's what I think you mean. Like you would entertain him. Like you're saying, if I was single, I would entertain him. That's what I understood liking to me. And that's why I was saying, like, to me, it's not about whether you want to entertain him or would entertain him. Sometimes it's just energy. Like for me, I can feel the energy of the person I'm talking to. So like some guys, you can feel that they don't usually push themselves to talk to people. So like sometimes you can feel that. Like when we say weird, it don't just mean like, oh, it's not like a violent thing. It could just be like, oh, he's very uncomfortable. He don't talk to women a lot, or he's shy. He don't push it. He could be an introvert, but you could feel that energy.
Right.
So even like, cause like, no, and for me, like, I'm not going to entertain anybody. So, like, when people come up to me, right, so that's what I'm saying. Like, because a lot of dudes would just come up to me to talk, and some of them would hit on me and stuff. But, like, how that conversation flows a lot of times depended on their charisma. It didn't have anything to do with whether I was going to entertain them or not, because I'm not going to entertain any of them. Some of them were just better at the engagement. Some of them were better at engaging you in the conversation and getting it with the same end, like with the same like outcome that they were hoping for. But they are just like more charismatic. It's more smooth. It's a more natural conversation flow. It's just like, oh, I'm going to chat you up about something. So that's what I'm saying. I think y'all interpret, oh, you just like him, or, oh, he's your type. That's why when you say like, I'm thinking you mean like, you said it's a more vague term. Like some dudes, the exchange is just so awkward that it's just like this weird, it's just like this awkwardness to the conversation. So it don't flow.
I understand what you're saying, Bree.
I mean, that's
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
I'm not hooking up with none of them.
Right.
But if you a good conversationalist, I'm going to sit there and talk to you. But a dude could be watching and be like, oh, she just was into him. No, he just was not weird when we were talking. He actually was good at the art of communication and conversation and small talk. And you're not. Like, sometimes it's really just that.
And then the average human being was like, he was cute, but I didn't like him. Because
sometimes it be vibes.
The vibe is what you didn't like. Like, I don't understand why you're
fighting.
No,
but when you say, like, the connotation I thought you meant was like him as far as you would take it further with him, or he's your type. That's what I thought you meant by like. But you just said in general, like, oh, you vibe, okay, whatever. But that doesn't seem to make sense in this context. But if that's the definition we sitting on, then you're right.
The situation is you don't know this individual from Adam, and they're approaching you.
Right.
So if you're going to have a conversation with them, there is something that you like to continue a conversation, unless you're super agreeable and never tell anybody no or put up boundaries. So if he's awkward, most women don't like awkward men. The few that do like awkward men and think shy and cute, they think it's cute, they'll continue the conversation because they like that energy. So it is a like thing. I'm not sure. This is the
definition of like versus what the general understanding of like in the context of what we're talking about.
So what is your definition of like? Because I'm having a hard time grasping your definition of like. A woman is having an exchange with a gentleman on the street, in a shopping mall, at a bar. A woman and a guy are having a conversation. Where does like come into play? What is like
his intent from the conversation? Because most dudes would say a man's not just going to come chat a woman up for no reason unless he's trying to holler at her, right?
Right.
Okay, so the idea is when we're talking about a man with the intent to try to holler at a woman and we're having an exchange, like in that context generally means you're saying if the woman likes him, then that exchange is going to go a certain way. So you're just saying like she vibing with him, I guess. I don't know. But to me, in that situation, like, if you're saying if the woman likes him or not, I'm understanding it to mean you're saying if he's the type she would go for, if she's attracted to him, like physically attracted to him. That's what I'm thinking you're talking about when you say like, not just like oh.
Do you like ice cream?
Yeah, but that's the way you're talking about it.
Like just means you enjoy some aspect of something. Like I said it was an umbrella term. It's a broad term.
Right.
Like somehow you're adding more language to it. Like
no, that's why when I said when you established what you meant, I said I digress because what the like that you defined for me once I came up, you was talking about a more general like unrelated to attractiveness. So I'm like, okay, in that sense, then yes, I agree with you.
Because if you're just meeting somebody, you it's hard. From meeting people, sometimes you like people based upon different things. It's not always an attraction. It might have been the line they said, the way they approached you. There could have been anything that can make you like somebody. Some people like somebody because of the car they drive. You know what I'm saying? So I was using a very broad term because we're having a broad conversation. So I'm not sure how we got so pigeonholed, but we're here now.
No,
can we admit? What you mean. Yeah, now that you know what I mean, can we say that yes, women do like respond differently based on if they like the guy or not?
See, that's weird language to me, but okay.
See.
I mean, it's still just it's just weird language. Like, it's just weird language.
Okay.
Because, like, look me as a married person right now. Mm-hmm. Like, if I said I liked some random dude to my husband, he'll be looking at me like, oh, you like him? Like, I just feel like the word like has a context to it, a connotation to it that we understand socially. So if I was like, oh, I like him.
I see what you're saying.
It would just be interpreted as for like a random dude on the street, not a celebrity, or like, oh, I like him as an actor. Like, it would just be weird. So that's where I'm coming from. Like has a connotation to it socially. In this kind of context, when you're talking about interpersonal opposite sex, like has a certain connotation. So that's why it's kind of, it's like when you're saying it's like that's a strong. Like, just because you were charismatic and I enjoyed our exchange does not necessarily mean I liked you. Like, it just meant I enjoyed that exchange. So it's just me. It's a nuanced thing. But yes, I agree. You asked me why I said it's weird. That's what
no.
telling you.
No, it's okay. Women be like, oh man, men overcomplicate things. No, all the work and effort that we're putting into something is to simplify it. But to y'all, it complicates it. And y'all do the opposite. Y'all add all these dimensions. Like, y'all add all these colors to a spectrum. But say we're complicating things and we're trying to, I just want to use light for all of this stuff. And you're like, no.
But that's kind of like the argument we had yesterday.
Exactly. All of this thing. All of this is tied into the same dynamic. All of this is tied to the same dynamic, which is why I'm saying we have to work on some kind of point of commonality between men and women. Because although we both need to bridge the communication gap, there's also a lack of interest in bridging on at least one side.
Right.
I won't say which side that is right now because I'm not trying to get
I always be like, I concede. That's not going to mean that how my biases towards what a word means is going to change because I concede in the argument. That makes it hard in verbal communication when you're not in a situation because the context has to be like my brother was saying in the thing. Sometimes the intent or the context has to be established verbally, which is not something y'all typically do. There's like, not only from us, y'all say we complicated, but words often have connotations to them and undertones to them. And I just think that sometimes y'all don't acknowledge undertones and connotation as much. You want to use the word how you want to use it, which is fine, but then understand that some people are going to interpret that a certain way. So if they say it back, you're like, that's not what I'm saying. Then that's usually a sign that maybe you need to say another word another way. Or you need to define the context in which you're using the word, or maybe you're not using the best word for what you're trying to get across. But a lot of times men just feel like all of that is extra and unnecessary and it frustrates y'all.
No, it definitely does. It's like it was a broad question with a broad relevance, with a broad word usage. And it's like, I'm not going to.
But then when you throw out blanket statements, everybody's going to interpret it based on their own life perspective. So in the situation, what we did is how you handle it. Each person comes up and I say, when I hear, and this is why it has this connotation. Why be frustrated with someone because you threw out a broad statement and the individuals are going to interpret that broad statement based on their life experience. But a lot of times, like, that's the problem. You men speak very simple which is fine. But the problem was like specificity sometimes cuts out some of that room for error. So if you're going to speak generally, you have to be aware that that leaves more room for interpretation. So you can either be very specific with your words or be able to become more specific if needed. But I think the if needed part is the part. Like, I don't have that problem with you. We can generally go back and forth because you'll always find another way. But some people are not.
Yeah, but again, we're not practiced in that. And that's like what I spoke to earlier. We're not practiced in that. But to the thing, though, why that gets frustrating is, and this is where I say there's a lack of empathy on the side, because women do the same thing. Y'all get frustrated when you are trying to communicate with us and you're trying to add in all that detail and we're glazing over parts of it, or we are skipping over parts, or we're missing. Well, I told you that. Well, you said so much. And it's hard for a person to take 15 minutes of information and remember each piece, because we're not tuned. We don't have the contextual clues that you do, that you've rehearsed through socialization from childhood, to know that when you say certain things in a certain way with certain phrases in combination, that means it has more weight emotionally. We're not tapped in. Like you just said, we use less words and we use them broadly. So if that's the case, why not extend some grace in our direction when we're communicating? But just like us, you get frustrated when you're not heard in your language as well. So like there should be at least an understanding that us women, we get frustrated trying to communicate with you men. Well, then it makes sense if you men get frustrated with us.